Early March 1945. Inside German High Command headquarters. The Ruhr is not yet a disaster. It is a problem, but a manageable one. On situation maps, the industrial basin is marked as an economic asset first, a military liability second. Steel, coal, factories, rail hubs, these matter more, in the minds of planners, than the formations currently stationed there. The assumption is simple and dangerously comforting. Territory can be traded, space can be yielded, and forces can be withdrawn in stages when the time is right. The Ruhr can be abandoned now and reclaimed later. This belief shapes every decision. German commanders convince themselves that withdrawals can be conducted deliberately, that divisions can disengage, fall back behind the Rhine, and reform for future operations. The Ruhr, they argue, is too important to defend to the last man, but too valuable to destroy outright. The factories must be preserved for a war they still hope to prolong. Time, they believe, still exists. Reports from the front reinforce this illusion. Allied advances are acknowledged, but interpreted through familiar patterns: probing attacks, limited penetrations, logistics-bound pauses. The expectation is that the Americans will slow as supply lines stretch, allowing German units to disengage in orderly phases. No one models the alternative. No serious war game is run that assumes total encirclement. That possibility is dismissed as unlikely, even unrealistic. The Ruhr has always been central. Too large to surround quickly, too dense with infrastructure to seal off completely. German staff officers trust geography as much as strategy. Rivers, urban sprawl, rail congestion, these are seen as natural brakes on any attacker. What they underestimate is speed. By early March, Allied forces are no longer advancing in cautious increments. American armored divisions are operating with fluid coordination, bypassing resistance, exploiting gaps, and driving deep into operational depth before German command can react. Bridges are seized intact. Road junctions fall before demolition. Teams arrive. The tempo is wrong. German field commanders begin sending warnings. They report that withdrawals are becoming chaotic. Units attempting to reposition are cut off by fast-moving American columns. Orders arrive late. Communications fail under pressure. The front is no longer aligned, it is dissolving into pockets. At high command, these reports are filtered. They are interpreted as local crises, not systemic failure. The belief in staged withdrawal remains intact. Industrial centers are still prioritized over true preservation. Orders emphasize holding factory zones and rail hubs as long as possible, even when tactical logic suggests pulling back sooner. The idea is to buy time to move machinery, time to plan, time to negotiate possibilities that are no longer realistic. His entire divisions are left in place to guard economic assets that cannot be saved. Meanwhile, Allied forces tighten the arc. American units cross the Rhine in multiple locations, overwhelming German expectations. The crossings are faster, cleaner, and more decisive than anticipated. Engineers throw bridges across under fire. Armor pours through before German reserves can react. The Ruhr is no longer protected by distance, it is exposed. Still, German planning clings to outdated assumptions. Command estimates continue to assert that disengagement is possible, that corridors can be opened, that a breakout, if needed, can be organized later. No one wants to be the first to say it. The word encirclement remains absent from formal directives. By the time it appears in internal memoranda, it is already too late. American link up north and south of the Ruhr faster than German intelligence predicted. Towns that were supposed to anchor withdrawal routes fall in rapid succession. Bridges meant to serve as escape valves are seized or destroyed prematurely. The ring begins to close inside the pocket. German formations wait for orders that no longer make sense. Some are told to hold, others to prepare to move. None are given a clear plan for escape. Fuel is scarce, ammunition unevenly distributed. Morale erodes as rumors spread faster than official communications. The High Command's original assumption that time still existed collapses under the weight of reality. There is no time left. The Ruhr has not been abandoned deliberately. It has been trapped. Only now does the full scale of the miscalculation emerge. Hundreds of thousands of troops are inside the pocket. Entire armies, immobilized not by defeat in battle, but by a failure of imagination at the top. The possibility of complete encirclement once dismissed, is now unavoidable. German High Command scrambles to adjust. Emergency conferences are held. Orders are rewritten. But every solution assumes freedom of movement that no longer exists. Roads are blocked. Rail lines cut. Allied artillery dominates key intersections. The Ruhr is sealed. What was treated as a recoverable asset has become a graveyard of formations. The industrial heart of Germany is no longer a bargaining chip, is a liability consuming men, resources, and attention at the worst possible moment. The assumption that troops could always be withdrawn proves fatal. The belief that space could be traded without consequence. Klepp says in The failure to seriously model encirclement ensures that when it comes, there is no plan to survive it. The Ruhr, once seen as something that could be yielded and reclaimed, is now something that cannot be saved at all. Not the factories, not the formations, not the illusion of control. Mid-March 1945, German intelligence is not blind to Patton's movement. Radio intercepts confirm Third Army armor crossing the Rhine at multiple points. Aerial reconnaissance photographs show long columns of American vehicles pushing east at speed. Reports from local commanders describe armored spearheads appearing far deeper than expected, often bypassing resistance rather than destroying it. The movement is visible. The intent is not at German High Command. Patton's advance is interpreted through a familiar lens. Fast pursuit, exploitation of a collapsing front, a drive to maintain pressure on retreating units. Nothing more. The assumption is comfortable. Armored thrusts, in German doctrine, are meant to chase a defeated enemy, not to surround intact armies. At operational depth, encirclement on the scale of the Ruhr requires coordination, patience, and deliberate sealing actions. Patton's reputation for speed reinforces the misreading. Speed, they believe, means overextension, not design. Field reports begin to conflict almost immediately. One corps reports American armor cutting east toward Kassel. Another insists the main thrust is turning north. A third claims the Americans are simply following retreating units along the Autobahn. The reports arrive hours apart, filtered through damaged communications and exhausted staffs. No single picture forms. German intelligence officers attempt to reconcile the data, but the conclusions remain fragmented. Each thrust is interpreted independently, as if the movements are unrelated. No one overlays them as converging arcs. The idea that these columns are closing a pocket is not seriously considered at lower levels. The danger feels clearer, divisional. Commanders report roads blocked behind them by American units they did not expect. Supply convoys fail to arrive. Withdrawal routes vanish without warning. Requests for permission to reposition are sent urgently. The replies come back slowly. Higher. Headquarters hesitates because the intent is still unclear. If Patton is merely pursuing, then the correct response is delay and phased withdrawal. Key towns. By time. Preserve industry where possible. Avoid panic. So no decisive counter-order is issued. Hours turn into days. American armored units continue to push, not straight ahead, but laterally. They seize bridges that should have been demolished. They captured junctions that connect multiple withdrawal routes. Infantry follows to hold ground, preventing German units from slipping through. The maneuver space begins to shrink. Still, German planners cling to the pursuit narrative. They believe corridors can be reopened. Whether to break out west or east will remain possible once Allied spearheads outrun their support. They underestimate how closely Patton's armor and infantry are working together. By the time intelligence analysts begin to suspect a larger design, the warning signs are undeniable. Multiple American columns are now reported north and south of the Ruhr Basin. Their movements align too neatly to be coincidence. Their pattern is emerging, but late. A senior staff officer finally uses the word that had been avoided: encirclement. The reaction is immediate and desperate. Emergency conferences are called. Orders are drafted to pull units back simultaneously. Breakout plans are sketched hastily, assuming roads and bridges that no longer exist. Reserve formations are ordered to move, only to discover their routes are already under Allied fire control. That delay has been fatal. What could have been a difficult withdrawal has become an impossible. Maneuver. American units close the remaining gaps with precision. They do not rush blindly. They consolidate, reinforce, and wait for adjacent columns to arrive before sealing the final crossings. Artillery is positioned to dominate the last open corridors. Air reconnaissance confirms German movements and directs strikes accordingly. Inside the Ruhr, confusion spreads. Units receive contradictory orders: hold, move, prepare to break out, often within the same day. Fuel shortages immobilize vehicles. Ammunition is hoarded. Morale fractures as soldiers realize their exits are gone. The moment of recognition comes. Too late. German intelligence finally understands Patton's operational intent, but understanding no longer changes reality. The space required to maneuver, to disengage, to escape,